Okay, good morning everybody. How are you? Now weather is getting warm. Anyway, very good to see you again. Nice to see you again. Nice to meet you again. Yeah, 다 담아가지고 산지 지도면서 나한테 소원 하시니까 자유에 보지 기다리네. 장로 시켰죠 그래서.
So now first, just as as in the refuge in bodhicitta, we should first visualize the object of refuge and then set up a proper motivation.
시도다 나도 남배처럼 산지 주로견에서 자유에 말이죠.
According to Buddhism, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha are the object of refuge.
아니 다 때문에 소소 같이 자유 관리식 남지 사는 것들이 자유의 존재. 다시 끌어오는 중간으로 보면 문이 자유문에 대해 주요 사례. 딱 삼수 제거해서.
Then other than that, whatever you would usually visualize, you can visualize that, and not just like the image or the portrait, but like a real being there.
아니 접 가르치는 자거든나. 아니 지금 개원다당 개와시마 개와시는 gente 아니다. 지금 또 좀 다투봐. 아니 다 사실 추기네 그죠. 공부스러도 이마 인사. 아니 다좀 물어봐야 된다는 거 접착을 해서.
So we take refuge in these three objects of refuge, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, because they have the power, or they are the infallible, the object of refuge, to protect us from all the sufferings and troubles in this life, in the future life, and so forth. So therefore we take refuge in them. They are the ultimate object of refuge.
워낙 좀 가진 자고 소소장고 등으로 대말했어요. 고아당에 숨도 말은 지식 짜 소소 다 지식 짜네. 다 대를 접해 니바데 손들나 다 산제 기준 접대 뭐 개대 기준 접대 다로 다 출근 접 문에 대해서 우리가 지어지네. 아니 고아당에 숨도 말에 지발에 좋아지는 데 말이다. 다 그걸 접 두지 자고 그래서.
So why do we have to take refuge in them? Can't we protect ourselves? And so in order to be free from the sufferings of the lower realms and the cycle existence, or because of being afraid of these sufferings, and then you take refuge in the Buddha as the founder of the refuge, the Dharma as the actual refuge, the Sangha as the assistant to find this object, or find the refuge in you. So with this thought, then you take refuge in them.
뭐라 들리지다 달래 야보셔는 더 보시나 산지 딱 잡는 공주선 전체 다 쳐라 잡자고 예산에 삼선으로 대하다 뭐 장도라고 그래서 계속 삼선대로.
So you entrust completely in these three objects of refuge, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. No matter what happens, you entrust in them completely. So that's called taking refuge.
나 tenero 삼네야. 까마치게 줘서 tenero 삼수 뒤다는 센터 대도 되고 싶다 나서.
And so now try to see if you can hold that thought for a little while in your mind.
다 대사서 다 뒤지려야 다 성체 탐지고 들어가는 말 나도 거기서 상지 공부도 봐샤 이제도 다 소소지 중요한 내셔가 주시야 봐 니한바 아무로 나셔가 되지 제 예산에 삼때 다 대상 거기서 내가 아주 장치고 생지.
And after that, now you generate mind, wanting to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And for that reason, I'm going to listen to the teaching, explain the teachings, do the other practices, and so forth. So you have that thought for a little while, and that's called bodhicitta.
전체 들리는 상지 공부도 쇼 내물로 대 단지라 지다고 내가 더 자주 생각들어.
So try to see if you can generate that mind, and just, may I be able to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. That mind is called bodhicitta.
Okay. Is it enough? Maybe do too much meditation than firstly. Without that, so
that you have setting motivation, is refuge and bodhicitta. In order to do that kind of practice, you have to do a lot of studies. And so, usually when establishing the existence of the phenomena, and then they're kind of divided into two: conventional truth and the ultimate truth. So when we talk about the phenomena or the object of knowledge, and so anything that can be perceived by mind is an object of knowledge. And so anything that exists can be perceived by the mind, right? So some kind of mind. So therefore, anything that exists is object of knowledge, and therefore, object of knowledge and existence are mutually inclusive. And so the object of knowledge can be divided into two, as I said earlier. That's the object, the ultimate truth and the conventional truth. So, Shantideva said the object of knowledge can be divided into two, as conventional truth and the ultimate truth. So the ultimate truth is not the number of means so it says that the ultimate truth is not object of knowledge of the mind. So here, when he said object, not object of mind, since I said earlier that everything is object of mind, object of knowledge of the mind, right? Everything can be perceived by some kind of mind. But here it says the ultimate truth is not an object of mind, therefore, the mind is the conventional truth. So what it means is that when it says the mind is the ultimate truth is not an object of mind, it's not an object of mind, or it's not an object of the deluded mind. Not just any kind of mind, but the deluded mind. It's not an object of deluded mind. So the deluded mind, so ignorant mind, cannot comprehend or perceive the ultimate truth. So everything that we perceive with our sense consciousnesses, like the things that we see, things that we smell, things that we can touch, and so forth, these are all conventional truth.
Okay. So
the ultimate truth is the emptiness. So emptiness is the empty of true existence. It's called emptiness, and so the ultimate truth is emptiness. So when we say empty of true existence, that means it's not truly existing. So because it is not existing truly, therefore it is empty of true existence. So just like you say a man is a woman is not a man, right? And so you can, in that way, in another way, you can say a man is empty of woman is empty of man. So existing on its own or existing from its own side are all existing truly. So, so anything, because there is no such thing as existing from its own side, therefore there's no existing truly.
아니 추 강가 또배 따뜻 다가 또배 가게 땡제 다 진제 땡제도 아니 다 땡주 때문에 간제 때는 또배자 다 그런 좀 요 말에 선 거죠.
So because there are no things existing from there, because everything is interdependent, either dependent on cause and condition or dependent on the parts and so forth. Therefore, there is no such thing as existing from its own side.
라파로 세워야나. 보면은 부모가 말아. 부모도 보용하는 말이었어. 부모도 그때 되지로 왔어.
So, male and female. This is called male because it's because of the female, right? So if it's female, it has to be such as because that therefore it's a male. So male and female are not it's an interdependent, but not like depending on the cause and condition. It's not like that, but it's depending because of it relies on each other. So male and female, because without male they cannot be female, without female they cannot be male.
대단한 genre 다 땡제 라바서 왔어. 아니 제대로 저거는 제대로 그때 되면서 내가 되는 제대로 내가 나오고.
So same with this side and that side. So this side cannot be that without that side, like that. But that's the one kind of interdependent. The other kind of interdependent, which is a little bit more easier to understand, is the cause and condition. So the result has to depend on the cause. Without the cause, there cannot be result. That one is more easy to understand, right?
다 발을 차는 다 같이 대바트 봤어야지. 근데 저는 잡아. 그 투주인 거 잡았어야 돼. 대바트 봤어야지. 되게 동화인자. 근데 대바트 동화스.
And so the most subtle one is like understanding how things are empty of existing from their own side, existing without depending on other things. And so that is if there is such thing, then there will be existing truly. So because there's nothing such as that, so therefore there's no true existence.
근데 맞아. 아니. 덴바트가 되게 동화 대만이 봐. 대 동화다라 아니 데메스 동반이었어. 다 대 아니 그랬다. 동ing에서 또 파비냐려시 쉐다 또 그래 마도 아니 때문에 되게 또 말이에요.
And so because there's no things exist from their one side, so therefore they're empty of existence from their one side. So that is what the emptiness is, empty of existence from its one side. And so that emptiness cannot be perceived by the ordinary mind, perceived by ordinary or deluded or ignorant minds, and therefore it says it's not an object of the mind, means like deluded minds, and it can be only perceived by the Arya or the superior beings who have realized emptiness or selflessness directly.
그러나 예절라 역감되라 면에 내가는 처받으면 좀 받으라 때문에 돼서 내가는 맞아가지고 좀 받으라 아니 돈이 더 별로 내 때문에 맞아도 별로라고 그랬어.
And so this the mind, these two minds, that one sees the object as existing from its own side, and which is the deluded mind, ignorant mind, and then the other mind which sees the object, the same object, not existing from its own side, is the wisdom mind. And so they both are looking at the same, so the same object. One sees as existing from its own side, and one sees as not existing from its own side.
그래다 때문에 된서 세대 달로 휴절로 아니 로 가서 로 로시 바자 아니 다 대가도 또 말했어.
And so that which sees the object as existing from its own side is the deluded mind, and so that mind, deluded mind or ignorant mind, is the mistaken mind. Therefore, it cannot perceive the ultimate truth. So looking at a woman and thinking it is a man, is a mistaken mind, right? It's not right. So that's very obvious, right? We can see, that's a woman, but he thinks that's a man. So that's a mistaken mind. That's very obvious. So grasping at something or thinking of something as existing from its one side when it's not, is as mistaken as that.
다 가진 랑도 저 말나 때는 다 버려 땡주리 생각도 되는 때 내가고 was.
And so why it is not existent from its own side, on its own, is because it is dependent. It's dependent on cause and condition, or dependent on other sides and so forth.
랑도 저 봐서 저당 깨당 아니 차도 제제 가라 마대마지 저 봐서 때라 랑도 저 봐서 말하고 그래서.
So if it exists from its own side, then it has to exist without depending on cause and condition, or without depending on parts and particles and so forth, sides and so forth. So something, if there is such thing and existing without depending on any of these things, then you can call that thing as existing from its own side.
양삼성마도 가리다시 동반이 시아시 뭐뭐 시아시네 다 랑도 정말 대마트만 가는 거나 대마트마도 가리요 나 좀도 도바 다성 양다 그래 로에 마시고 뭐 용거를 봤어 대마트 봤어야 돼 근데 랑도 잡았어 제어 제ano 차도 체제 가면 그런 거네 걔를 맞는 직접 하나 때려 랑도 잡아 대마트 보려고 그래서 다 들으지 문제가 말아서 왔다지 잡아야
So, in this context, when we call something existing truly, and then it has to exist from its own side without dependent cause and conditions, parts and sides and so forth. So, if there's such thing, existing from its own side like that, then you can call it existing truly, in this case, in this context. And so, therefore, when we talk about emptiness is all about empty of existing truly, which means existing from its own side.
근데 다 나도 내라고 동도 왔어. 다 간가야. 이하고 제도 저 깨나 되다. 이하고 참 제대로 되는 따바지 마도. 마도 찌를 마도 저만 찌면 왔어. 동도에.
So everything has to depend on those kind of things, right? Either in cause and condition, or on its parts, or on the sides, and the directions and so forth, right? So by depending on that, then it has to exist. It comes in existence by depending on those things. Can you find anything that doesn't have to depend on any of these things?
배는 당도 못 잡으시려고 있나? 아니 제가 깨는 게 그래서.
So if it is a compounded phenomena or impermanent phenomena, then definitely it all depends on cause and conditions, right?
아니 대만에 따배시려고 했나? 배는 따봤어야 돼. 못 따봤어야지 여관자 대라 되는 거 따봐야 해서 주려고 그러고.
And then again, permanent things, they exist, because they depend on the impermanent things. Because there is impermanent, therefore these things called permanent.
따배 동안 따봐 많이 말아 따배 동안이라는 거.
So that
따배 동안은 따봐 많이 가. 따봐 많이 말아 따배 동안 해서.
That which is empty of permanent, is not permanent. So the impermanent things are empty of permanent thing, and therefore it is impermanent.
그러니까 따봐 많이 봐지 이것도 따때려 따봐서야 되는 거다 미다셔로.
So because there are such things which is not impermanent, therefore we call it permanent, right? That's anyway name, right?
아니 뭐다 들리라고 했어. 아니 다 전주에 배는 것도 아마 세대 간이다 그래. 보기 깨서도 다 나도 그만 왔다 때만 아마 뭐 깨달아 봤어.
And then such person is called mother, because she gave birth to a child, right? So after she gave birth to a child, then she's called mother. So her becoming mother depends on giving birth to a child.
어떻게든 그대나 지기 땡주고 땡대 걸어도 써모 먼저 시간이 보는 거 써모 나지 됐어. 시간이 보다 뭐 매매씩 내라고 뭐 매매 제대로 손담고 그래서.
And so you have to think about that emptiness, about the ultimate truth, the emptiness, and just like we read the Heart Sutra. In the Heart Sutra, it says no, there's no form, no sound, no smell, and so forth. So when it says no form, what does it mean? What kind of form doesn't exist? What kind of form is not there?
남주에 가든나 공제에서 말해. 다 남의 주고 대바처럼 말하고 다 인발에 시 대바처럼 말해도 삼다나 다 알고 삼다나 그 진짜로 고야 보려고 말해. 진짜 대바처럼 말씀해도 대바처럼 세대 준 내리지 않아도 대머리 주는 것처럼 말씀 맞죠? 진짜 땡주래 땡데래. 손도 땡거니 가르려도 떼삼다나 셈나 문내가 다 땡거니 따라 레도 다 대래랑 로서 문도 와서 소소치 딱 내신이야죠 그래서.
So in Buddhism, you think that, in Buddhism they talk about the lack of true existence, and I think maybe things do not exist truly. If you just think like that, that doesn't help you much. What does it mean by not existing truly? And so, but if you think more in detail, what does it mean by not exist truly? If it exists truly, then it has to exist from its own side. It has to exist without depending on causing conditions, parts and size, directions, and so forth. And because there are no such things, so things are all empty of existence from their own side. Therefore, they are empty of existing truly. So when you think like that, then you have to come to understand the real meaning of the emptiness. When it's talking about empty of what.
Okay. 대걸 something 기침을 했어. 다 이제 어떤 도마 맞아서 어떤 연발에 something 그만 로를 열고 말해.
That's how you should come. You should think, and then you have to really come to understand that things do not exist from their own side. They are empty of existence, truly empty of existence from their own side. Otherwise, if you just think that they are empty of existing truly, then that doesn't help much.
내가 감액인데 토하대. 집바도 까올 때도 이러. 집바도 까올 때면은 꼬마 들로 그러. 일단 라파는 거라고 그러.
So just like the roof is standing on the pillars and walls, right? If there's no pillars and wall, the roof will collapse. So that's like kind of a rough, a gross dependence.
근데 봐 추강을 두 정상 단다고 그러는데 데프트 조사가 조사면은 그 데프트 사는 거죠.
And so like that you can apply phenomena. So how every phenomena is empty of existence from its own side, how it is all dependent on something else. Like this book sitting on the table, depends on the table. Without the table, it would be on the floor.
그렇죠? 다 강사세, 나세를 다 처음 말해, 대말 처음 말해, 다 강사세지. 단위 밥에 따서 녀요 말하려고 그러고, 다들 녀는데 소소상다.
And now then you come down to a little bit more subtle, thinking about the person. So what is person? So if you look for the person, you will not find it. And then is it really true? You should analyze it yourself.
오늘 대대로 같이 대마 맞춰봐. 동반이야 대마 세대 같이 다 대마 좀 동화들 해야 돼. 대마 쳐봐야 돼. 다 다른 사람이 좀 대마 쳐봐. 대마인자 대모 맞춰서 대마 좀 동화나 그래서.
So anyway, so you cannot find when you search for the person, and so just like that, every phenomenon is empty of existence from its own side, truly. And so because it is not existing from its own side, it has to depend on cause and conditions and so forth, and therefore it is empty of existing truly.
다 대단로 이시면 다 대단하다 나술로 이시면 다 나도 지도요 말해서 왕도 지도에 도요 말해서.
And so the ultimate truth is not an perceivable object of the ordinary minds.
다 나도 간단히 그래나 꾸준히만 꾸준히만 통하면서 다 통하는 지 맞춰야 되는 것도 통하는 저걸 해서는 다 로시제니다. 그렇지 그래. 이거는 이렇게 와서.
And then the conventional mind, is the mind that sees the things and then thinks that things are existent just as they see, and just as we see it. And so that is the mistaken mind.
근데 셋도 다 그저 되면 몰라 다 대상 세력이 다 다시 먹고 제대로 들어와.
And then nowadays many scientists are analyzing a lot on this conventional mind.
뭐만 계시지.
Sort of conventional truth.
뭐만 계시는 것도 내가 딱 이렇게 잘했어. 다 진짜서야. 다 모두 대답다 마시고 그러면서 그저 마시다가 다 그저 되면 다 그래. 제가 다 그런 따로 신다랬어. 아니 나도 그런 밑에 것이야 말이야. 다 나도 그저 시간에 대답다 마시고 그랬어. 다 라이브하게 람-rim 했어.
And so there were some certain geshes who said these scientists, the Western scientists, they all know about the conventional truth. So if you want to tell them what they don't know, then you should tell them about the ultimate truth.
이제 다 가서 나서 대기나 그다 저거를 때문에 내가 다 나서 대단되면 그도 되면 최대한 나도 약 제토에 너무 신경 많아.
So that was just a joke that Geshe was making. Of course, it's very difficult to understand the conventional truth as difficult as the ultimate truth is.
아니 그 때문에 가는 다 대단하다 막 동반이다 지금 동반에도 도파친보도 지금 근데 가래 마음을 하려다 지지서 다시 우리 연말에서는 지금 인도선에 다시 가서 가게 되는 얘기를 해서 하나도 그도 되면 남주진 돌아지다 그거 다 됐어 그거 제가 단어적인 말을 걸라고 해서.
So he was just joking and saying that if you tell about the ultimate truth, emptiness, then the audience, the Western audience, they get very excited. and then they pay attention to that. If you explain about ultimate truth, emptiness, about Mahamudra, about the great completion stage, and so forth, then they really pay attention. Otherwise, if you tell about the conventional truth, and it says this is book, this is table, they already know about it, so they don't tell it.
아니 또 많이 보니까 시오지 통도사 시오지 투사사 시오지 차든다 그런 가리잖아 다 그랬어.
So when we talk about emptiness, then they think that this is very interesting and there's something that they can achieve, something great that they can achieve, and then they pay attention to that.
이나 똥바니가 내서 다 그거라 담보 그저 되면 돼 하고 자꾸 그러면 그저 되면 다 먹는 똥바니에 세다. 바리 빵지에 해서 배에서. 바리 빵지는 가는 거지. 다도 영어 말해서요.
So anyway, without understanding conventional truth, there's no way you can understand about the ultimate truth. So you have to first understand the conventional truth. Without that understanding, ultimate truth is impossible.
I don't know even what they mean. I don't know. I can't even tell you what. That didn't know anybody. Today is that. And 그것도 대봐서 했던 가서 그런 통제 리더도 그런 그것도 말하고 yes. 아니 똥반이 대바데 똥와 그때는 되는 거라고 yes. 대반이 되는 소용 그래.
So everything that we see, smell, and so forth, is the conventional truth, and everything that is empty of existence from their own side, or empty of existence truly, is the conventional, so ultimate truth. So the true truth.
다야 디나네야 지금도 파지 시바는 내가 쉬어야 되는 거라고 그랬어. 내가 쉬어야 돼.
And again, if you expand that, then we talk about the four noble truths, four truths.
다 내가 쉬다는 건데 관계 하고 그러와. 관계 내가 쉬도 관계 뜻이요.
So you all know what are the four truths, right?
와. very possible. 아니 나도 딱 남벽의 추기 아니 코가 죽여왔잖아. 코를 죽였다. 코를 죽었어. 코가 죽여왔으니 진행이. 코가 떠오르는 진행이 시작해서 와.
So that so the true truth, four truths, the true truth, the true suffering and true origin, they are the cause and effect. So these are the ones that causes you to engage or enter into cycle existence, and then so the true part and the true cessation are the true cause and effect, truths, that allows you or that helps you to be free from cycle existence.
So, 이 산지 좀 된데가 담보 왔는데 죽어서 말이야. 아니 다 대마식 죽어서 말이야. 대주고.
And so this is the four truths that Buddha first stage taught when he gave teaching for the first time in Varanasi. So first he said, understand the suffering. So as in samsara, the result is the suffering. So he said you should understand that suffering. And then as a cause to engage or throw into the cycle existence, then he taught about the true origin, the origin of all these sufferings. What is true origin? Where it is? Where did it come from? Whether it's permanent or impermanent, and so forth. So then he said you have to abandon the origin, or the delusions, the origin, which is the cause of the sufferings. So just like first when you are sick or when you're not feeling well, you have to find out what the disease is. You have to find out the disease, and then you see where it came from, how did it happen, and so forth. And then you understand, look for the cause, and then you give the medicine, and then you get cured.
And then is that 담보 두마디 시와에서 어다 두마디 제가 감시되시면 어다때 제가 갔나 다 아니 군주들 막 그래서 와대 단대가 나돌았대 아니 뜬고 대도 말이 봐 내가 군주들 말아 그래서 군주
and so first understand the suffering and then see where it came from, and then you look at the origins. So the true origin. And the true origins here is just like we earlier talked about earlier, are the delusions, the attachment, anger, and so forth.
다 도지는 다 근주 때문에 너무 대세도 다 대방이셔. 대방도 대방이 보면 고바세 도와해서 해서면 다 대만 말하는 고바세 돼. 고대세 돼. 그랬어.
And then then you analyze whether it is it can be abandoned or not, or whether it can be destroyed or not. So then you come to understand, yes, it can be, it's possible, and because you can achieve the cessation. And then in the third truth, then Buddha explained about the true cessation.
워낙 다 근주에 막 빵야도 대빵 고바세 워낙 타기까지는 다 가는 다들 남고고 다 뭐기와 접봉 tum송고 다 남고고는 다 남시거든 말이에요.
Buddha said, yes, it is, in general, yes, it is possible to abandon the true origin because you can achieve the true cessation. And if there is a way to achieve true cessation, then how do you achieve it? And in order to achieve that, then you have to meditate on the path. And then he explained about the true path.
정말 나다디 모시바치. 근데 나다디 간이용 하고 같이. 근데 나다디 잘 되는 데 따지. 잘 오늘도 잘하고 가지. 어디면 사고 그래서. 근데 나도 메타기로.
So first you find out about the disease, and then see where it came from, and then see whether it can be cured or not. And then when you see it can be cured, so in order to cure it, what do you have to do? You have to take medicine. So those are the fourth noble truths.
Then we cut this bit, right? Cut is there someone, they cut the liver or something, kidney. Anyway, the day I'm not sure I'm maybe chewing Rotandi, Jitangi, Rotam Tushira.
So anyway, the Buddhism, the Buddhism or the teachings of the Buddha are very similar to the worldly way of life. So when we relate in that way, with the things that happen to us in our everyday life, then it's easier to understand. Otherwise, if you just say, Buddha said that, and you just have to believe and it doesn't, apply to our daily life, then it's difficult to understand and difficult to believe also. So first you understand the suffering. It says you understand the suffering, so just as you have to know what disease you have, right? So you have to take the example like that and understand. So it's very important to study, and whatever you study, also important to put into practice. And so the sign of having studied, has to be subdued, tamed, and the sign of having meditation, it has to be more, less delusions and so forth.
And Tibetan 너무 체르체르. 아니 고메 Tibetan 배나 공로 살았어. 그래. 저도 살았다. 아니 고메는 너무 체르체르나? 다 양내하고 오면서.
그래서
Tibetan 다 지금 공로 저도 살았다. 이거지.
너무 체르.
너무 체르. 또 시시도 많이 말이라. 다 공다 너무 체르체르나? 다 양내하고 오면서 다 그랬어.
So the sign of having studied has to be that you should be more subdued, more tamed, right? So the opposite, if you become more wild, more unsubdued, then that is not a good sign. As a result of having meditated, if you increase more and more delusion, then that's not a good sign.
Right? I said, I tell them the Yabushara is. I got to the Yabushara to do so. Just said,
So what I'm seeing from my side, I think you guys are very good, and you're doing very well. Depending on your time and all these things, I think you're doing very good.
Something not to answer. Lord, not to damn the young cigarettes, but then you take on a yapo chain. Shower yapo, Kadina Tamashi was a chip to Mamma.
So sometimes like the opposite happen, and you try to do good, and all the bad things happen to you. you try, you do all the good things, but then everything goes wrong with you.
그거 근데 저 도와서 다 남이까지 전제 때 약을 근데 그 노래도 다 가만도 어디서 도와 사세요 왔어.
Then you might wonder, whether it is really true what Buddhism is explaining to you. It says you do good and you'll get good, you do bad, you'll get bad. But I've been doing all the goods, but I still get bad.
근데 영화들 가르쳐서나 나도 깨워라 투마면 그래. 깨워라 투마면 내 이야가 누가 다 처음 뭐 사셔야 돼. 근데 예전 눈맞이 내 두자들 사셔야돼. 단단 메신더를 야보 제외가 개개 싸울라 때. 근데 내 두자들 단단 센터를 më네. 아니 깨워 주면네. 아주 좀 내가 뭐야 소장을 그랬어.
So, but actually, the bad things that you are experiencing is not a result of the good things that you are doing in this life, right? Obviously not. So, since we have beginningless lifetimes, and in one of the lives we have created so many, in many of those lives we have created so many bad karmas, and the imprint of those bad karmas are still in our consciousness. And so, it is that imprint that's ripening, in the form of suffering. And so, it's the result of that bad negative karma that we have created in one of the previous lives. Not the result of the positive karma or good karma that we created in this life. But the positive karma that created in this life does help you to ripen those negative karmas fast in a small way, in a small bad way, so that you will not have to experience the long bad things for long run in the future.
Sometimes maybe we say, too much Buddhism said this. Not true, just give up. That 양보치는 양보, 두보치는 두보치. 그러면 다 되는 나도 유게 있어요. 아니, 높다. 말했어. 하고 그랬어.
So to understand that, whenever the bad things happen, then we should always think that this is the result of negative karma created sometime in the past. Could be in this lifetime, or could be in the last lifetime, or on one of the previous lifetimes. And so by understanding, by knowing that, we should not give up Buddhism thinking that it doesn't make sense.
깨와 심망 예술은 내들이 좀 너무 사실이나 채널을 지금 일어나서 생각하면 또 용어되고 음악 예술도 딱 깨고 철을 고쳐야 되는 거예요.
So because of your good karma, created in this life, that can help you to make those results become small. So let's say you have created karma to be born in the lower realm, in a hell realm for a long time. So that karma can be ripened in a form of like a headache or a stomach ache or failure and something. So in this life, so with that small result, you purify that karma, which could have led you to the hell realm for a long time.
다른 쇼츠라는 만 몇가지 밑에들어야지. 다 도착자도 막장에지들아 밑에들 찍고 롱로 치고 정도 와서.
And sometimes you see that people who are doing all the bad things, cheating and doing all these bad things, have always success and name and fame and so forth.
어다 대양 가졌나? 야구 지원 뭐라 렘 약방 못 사셔. 대근 제가 대양 다는 문제 있어.
That again also, is not the result of the bad actions that he has created. He's creating in his life. That's kind of a good action, a result of the good action that he or she has created one of his her previous lives.
야, 내 가시 내 제대로 내서 사는 정말 내 민기로 대란 통신 용식이 내서라고 그러더라고.
So there are some actions that you create in this life, and then result of that you can experience in this very lifetime. Those are the results that are experienced in the same lifetime.
아니 내가 제가 주세요. 다 내대서 안에 대근자고 깨워시마시면 뭐야 그래요.
And then there are actions that you created in this life, and then you will ripen. The result will ripen in the very next life.
Okay. Yes.
What if one has done something wrong in this life, and one there's no way out, and so it keeps creating negative karma? And even though one knows the Dharma, one sees that one has not applied it properly, and it's just overwhelming for the mind to go through this, which I am going through now. I cannot. It's something that has been started, and I cannot reverse it. So it's creating negative karma. It's very, very frightening. So what does one do?
좀 하고 와서 잠재 좀 됐다. 잠재마다 그 좀 하고 그 이제 또 제대로라. 근데 내 마음은 또 좀 마음을 사대 뭐 배셔나 소식을 때 같이 하고 있어요.
대신에 제가 말했어. 나도 관계 무슨 제어서 나도 관계 찍발했어. 랍다 말은 나는 찍발했어. 나도 찍발이야. 대한테 주보 며칠 나도 제어하고 나도 관계 제어했어. 내 제어 주도 제어하고 있는 거다.
So you don't have to be afraid. We all sin. We all make mistake. So
This is the thesis.
나도 관계가 내 지노도 고소도 샘 시에들이 제가 말 관계가 며칠 제어를 며칠 제어라 얘들 그래 그 며칠 제어를 다 시작하나 그 밀어서 이래서
so we all make mistake, we all engage in the wrong deeds, in non-virtuous actions, mistakes. So the good thing about the mistakes and these non-virtuous things is they can be purified. So we should engage in the practice of purification.
며칠 하고 하고 시작을 빼야 버려죠.
So the first of all, just understanding that mistake as a mistake is very good.
내 마음이 며칠 전 하고 있는 나도 관계 찍발했어.
So many people, they even don't know they're making mistakes. They make mistakes and they don't even know that's a mistake.
나도 가능한 코로도 딱 며칠 와. 코로에 며칠 하고 있는 코로나는 그 코로 나와야 돼. 갈라면 날라야 돼.
So like for example, anger is a mistake, right? We all know it's a mistake. We don't know it's a mistake. Many of us don't know it's a mistake. Therefore, we get angry so easily.
그래서 다 나도 관계가 일마다 로운도 여성도 샤워치 마로마도 막혀서 치워야 당한 좀 와서 하라고 상치들 조셔로 치는 되게 대박고 다 다르고 그래서
So instead, if we think, if we understand the mistake that we made as a mistake, and then generate sense of regret towards that, and engage in some kind of practice of making prostrations and so forth, or reciting prayers and so forth, doing meditation and so forth. So if you do that, then that can help you to purify those negative karmas.
소소 강한 톱도 지금이야. 소소를 대체 이밥 먹이 먹을 수 없나 야포에 말고 다 생각해 보면 내가 다른 거죠. 강한 톱도 지금.
So one should do according to one's limit. If you try to do too much, then again not so good. That might cause you to be depressed or even be physically unhealthy. So just do at moderation according to one's limit.
and 소소 먹기와 두점을 채는 대다와 체리 연습을 그런데 체리다 많은 즐거지나 대대대 방법 다르고 그래서
So for example, if you regret for the negative karma that you have created, and in order to purify that, you think that I'm going to recite one mala of Om Mani Padme Hum, doing that will purify a lot of negative karma also.
But if the state went on for a long time and one was unaware, so one has built up much negative karma, and it seems almost impossible to purify.
쉬어야 매일 뜻하시는 요 말이죠.
So it is not impossible. There isn't any negative karma that cannot be purified.
뜻하셔야 매일 뜻하시는 요 말이죠. 치네.
So yeah, there isn't any negative karma that cannot be purified.
그래서 간세 뜻하셔야 매일 제나 안에 산책이 추가가 다 정말 작아서 말해서 간세마지.
So if there is a negative karma that cannot be purified, then you can say all the teachings of the Buddha are false.
빼는 가서 두루라 잡아 파내줘 두루대 잡아서 쬐고 더 잡아서 요 말이에요. 예를 들어서.
So, for example, there is the dirt on the cloth. Can it be removed or not? Is there any dirt that cannot be removed at all from the cloth?
But the point is, one has to do a remedy. If one does not have the power to do a remedy, so that the cause that creates this suffering, it creates this conflict within one's mind, keeps producing negative karma. So one does not have a practical way, because the first thing you have to do is have the remedy. And then you can start purifying the negative karma. But if one sees no way to stop that negative karma from creating itself, then it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
미교 가서 니꺼 내가 마셔야겠다. 남과 가서 탑시대 하고 오라서 내가 마셔야 돼. 내가 마셔 탑시대 매번 있는데 그래 가서 라면 된 다서 내가 슈도 오라서 근데 배가라 하고 싶어서 깔고 쉬우라서.
깔레카오 인바 이상한 데다 강간데 하대. 깔레카오 맨날 그거 사제다 그래서. 근데 깔레카레 서로 강 토토시. 가지 서로때 니바이 바코나 안에 데려도 돼. 니바들 쉬어야지. 강 토토시 깔레 봐봐. 때 바로.
So yeah, of course it is difficult. If it's not difficult, we will all be enlightened by now. But anyway, so it is, and it's, the first thing is it's very good that one understands that as a mistake or that as a negative karma, and then one have to try to keep oneself aware of that all the time. Yeah, this is negative karma. This is negative karma. I should not engage in that. That thought should be there all the time, as strong as possible. The stronger that thought is, then less you will be engaging in that karma. So you engage in that karma whenever you kind of that thought goes slack, it's kind of loose, and then it becomes kind of habituated. You're used to that kind of action, therefore you easily engage in that. But if you keep that thought thinking this is bad, then that will happen. But again, it still be difficult because we are so used to that, and therefore even if you know that's bad, you must still engage in that. But just by thinking like that, thinking that's bad or knowing that's bad will help you.
아니 시당 추다 개와도 야보 제대로 야 추제와는 받지 뭐 하는 거래서 시당 진로다 되지.
So also like when you are engaging in the positive karma or in engaging in dharma practice, there always is more obstacles to you.
근데 이마다 가르나 어떤 대 간지 랜드 코스만 땅고 그래서 단다 강의로 쳐나 뒤가 다 내지 다 심지 쓰지라 마하고 뭐는 뒤에 소소로 강의 영화들 심지 관계들이 강의에 요 꼽쳐가 줬는데 근데 상관나 다시 한번 보내서 사실 야해요.
And also when you are facing that kind of difficulties, you pray for others. So think about others and think that may they not face this kind of difficulties. By my facing this may become adequate for everyone else to face it, and so that they will not have to face this. If you practice that, then that becomes the practice of also taking and giving. So you're taking all the sufferings of other beings upon yourself. So that's one of the best way or most powerful way to purify negative karmas. And so if you keep thinking and worrying about your problem, then that's not the solution. More you worry, more depressed you will be. So when that kind of depressions happen, then you can try to change your object, the object of your mind. Think about something else, something that's happy and good things. So you can distract your mind from being depressed. It's very easy, for our mind to be, pulled towards that object all the time. Very easy. Like yesterday, I had a stomach ache, and my mind was all around that all the time.
Yeah. But today, that kind of 그 파사서 가지 다시야 somewhere 다 나는 생다 다 사수들 쌓여야 돼. 파샤는 그 지시야 시험 말했어.
So you don't need to be scared, thinking that there's no way to be out of here. Of course, there is definitely a solution for that problem, and every negative karma can be purified.
멋지도 그저 그치 고거 세비 밑에 세트를 다 준다고 도서 묵직동 급자 세문을 하죠. 묵직동 급자로 주고 말이야. 급자로 주고 공생해야 돼. 세문을 자주는다고 그래서.
So think about the beings who have created so much serious negative karma, like Angulimala, who killed 999 people, and still was able to gain arhatship in that very lifetime.
근데 진짜 메라레베가 최대라야 소소 아시아나 아는 게 시가도 간다. 모두 샘준 소도 다 가서 먹을 수 없는 거들. 제메라 공부하자니 다 사지 공부도 좀
And also think about Milarepa, who gained enlightenment in one life. during his early part of his life, he caused so much damage to the people, like to his uncle, aunt, their fields, and then of course he caused these hailstorms and that created so many, that killed so many creatures, right? Birds, and so forth, and people, of course, but through engaging in very strong practice, he was able to gain enlightenment in one lifetime.
Therefore, we don't in here. No one kills any people, right? We don't kill anyone. 나도 무지가 세만이고, 나도 독서지 대만이고, 저도 대명이 저도 생제 저 세니와 동의동의 고고시가.
So we haven't created that kind of negative karma, right? We haven't killed anybody. We haven't, cast a spell on people, and the thunders and lightnings to fall on them, or the hailstorm, on them. Any of you have killed anybody, like any being or anybody, like knowingly? Have you killed?
I kill all small birds. When I was a kid, we always go to every day, outside to, keep the horses, cows, totally, every day. Then sometimes we body, just follow the looking at the cows. There's nothing there. We body that we can see the, birds. They got some
Nest.
The moms go to there, then come back. We just go there and check. We see that the eggs there. Then we can go today, we can watch out there. Then tomorrow we go. Then we think, I thought, how there is it? What do you want then? I broken. I broke the egg. Then inside nothing, that's just same as, here we egg. Then maybe couple of weeks, again we check. How that then? Oh, terrible. Oh, then they real that when she took the told was she put it on you. 당분간은 공원은 무슨 뭐 되는데. 아니 야 갑자기 가시 제치다나. 아니 she took it on. 우리들은 공원. 나 얘들은 없어야 될 수 없어서 사도.
So anyway, so there's this. First, when he looked at it, it was just an egg, ordinary egg, so it wasn't hatched, so there was no baby inside, no chicks. But then the next time again he did, then actually there was this baby already in there with the fur and wings already, so he felt very bad.
Yeah, I did learn that, you guys maybe not. Normal kids, there's something body, they have nothing to do, they just play with eggs. 내가 다 간증 안 좋고 관계에 무게와 몸을 살이나 무게와 뭔가 샤야도 다야 됐다 득백이 되버렸어.
So we have created so many negative karma in this way. So all this negative karma that we have created can be purified. So that's the good thing about negative karma, is that it can be purified.
그래서 가디나 개체보자 소득 강에 되는 강에 되는 공대가 대 뺏기지 버렸어.
And so it's very important, to know that. Also when we're facing difficulties, you should not be thinking about that all the time. Otherwise, it feels like it is increasing more and more, bigger and bigger, becoming bigger and bigger.
빼자로시나. 가져와서. 사원 lost wallet. 며칠 다 너도 lost 와나? 다 너도 것도 다 제주로 왔어. 아니 대고에 땅을 가져와 오라도. 샘제전은 다 샘마지가 보내니 먹는 걸 봤어.
So, for example, if someone lost a wallet, and of course we keep all our important things in the wallet, right? So, if you lost that, if you keep thinking about that loss, then you feel very bad. That you won't be able to sleep in the night, right?
그때 맞아지 대지 선지 때 탐신하고 지. 아무나지. 다지 지는 그리 가서 지 계속 제하고 지. 그래 탐신하고 잖아. 아니 그때 제대로다 샘대 양으로 왔어.
So instead of worrying just about the loss, if you started to work on what you can do to save your credit cards and cancel the credit cards and cancel them and so forth, then that will disturb the mind from worrying about that.
가서 직관은 대진에 겁나 샘시가 티걸 가서 제가 개를 나고 대장하고 대마마마 대간이 제장 대성 철당하고 말이야.
So you should not think about that as much as possible, because the more you think about it, more problems you will face. So the problem becomes bigger and bigger. So you should not think about that at all.
Okay.
If a person in the Sangha is suffering terribly, can we help by saying malas for them or doing tonglen for them, with them in our mind?
다 고도랑 이수도 개편도 하면서 되나 대형 깨진 소속 개발 요청서 그래서
So cannot say, whether that will be really helpful to them or not, but by doing that, you yourself is creating a lot of positive karma.
딱 나도 가는 근데 가족이 동학 강의데 틀려야 지금 답변 말어나 소소라 니슈도 요 말었어. 영어에는 좋아요.
Of course, if you are in that stage or in a level, then you will be able to take it. Some people's, not everybody's, but some people's you can take it depending on your karmic connections and so forth. People can reach to that level where they can take it, but if you're not in that level like me, I won't be able to take the sufferings, actually take from them. But if I do prayers dedicating to them, then definitely I create myself a lot of positive karmas.
드레다 쇼지는 산지 좀 내서 손을 와서 아니 그로 투는 대바 체인 못이 있어. 그래도 막 사건에서 손을 내서 와. 추트라이 말이야. 나가 틀려요 말도.
So even Buddha cannot take away your suffering, just like Buddha said. The Buddha cannot wash away your negativities and cannot remove your suffering, just like you remove the thorn from your feet.
아니 산지 좀 내가 그런 거 고송도 얘네들 만들지라 치. 또 만들 산지 좀 내가까지 지치 상식을 생각 만들지라. 또 보여요 말이죠.
And he cannot also transfer his realizations, his knowledge or realizations to us.
다 원하지 산지 좀 오늘 다 삼자를 가진 변호사 와다 주님 대만에 줘가지고 기대가 내 시점 하는 것 때문에 그런 거지 이송으로.
So then how does Buddha help us? In what way can Buddha help us? It's just by showing the truth, explaining the path, and then leading them on the path. Then he can help us.
어떤 데다 가디에다 수도서다 강이 그말 없어 강이 최충람 그 강을 열었어. 모두 거기 솔직히 받는 매너지 내대로 막 열었어. 내가 알고 있어.
So we all have some kind of problems, small, big, medium problems. We all have that. Some people maybe pretend as they don't have problems, but we all have.
이나야 강에 짜져 상타나 소수 강에 체체리 못해. 성신 다는 말이죠.
But if you just keep on thinking about that problem, then the problem will increase more and more. So you should not think about that problem at all.
빼차셔와는 만돈 사람들 니 kum하고 저는 제가 만들어야 배로 만들어도 니 그러 그래서 같이 됐나 만들어도 뭐 세대 양으로 그래. 딩을 세대 빼다 직 소수 까내로 되는 사람 다니 대대면 세대 니 그토고 말해서 다 만들어다 선모다가 셈코는 삽직코는 저자서 한다. 근데 뭐 갈까 거기 그러 그래.
So sometimes when you are not able to fall asleep, if you recite mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, then that will help you to fall asleep. Because when you are not able to sleep, your mind is so busy thinking about so many things, and so that problem seems to become heavier and heavier. So that doesn't allow you to fall asleep. But then when you think about something else, like recite mantra, then your mind becomes more light. You take away from that thought, and then your mind becomes lighter. Then you fall asleep.
Or you listen to some teachings, or maybe very nice song, maybe some rock song. 같이 맞아 강에 들어가려고 하고 강에 때 수수문에 달기 지까지 샘대 딱그 예고는 거라 예고는 요자스다고 그러더라고.
So whenever you're facing problems, then you should try to see if you can change your mind from the object to different objects.
Okay? You like that? Okay, now we go to this real text, okay? 이나 다른 거 좀 잡아야 돼. 이제 이런 거 치우고 이제 남들 중에 맨으로 해서 봐.
Anyway, what we were talking about is very important. That's the main part, the main thing about the Buddhism.
오케이. 다 대리사진 어디 봐.
Which page?
It's in page 224, the blue cover one. And the topic 70, the outline 70.
들어와.
In the yellow book, it's page 259.
다시 사진 나와대 두발 모두 같이 녹색으로.
So that's the outline 70, right? 70. So let's preach that outline part. After the outline 71. Okay, your insights and realization into the levels and the path will increase. Both Dongdamba and Ame Changchu Rinchen diligently served Atisha, once an attendant, the other as a cook. In terms of concentration and realization, they had more insights and experience than Mahayogi, who practiced morning meditation. They had also developed more on the stages in the path than he. Atisha could see this by clairvoyance and told Dong, you travel the path merely by serving your guru, the gray-haired monk. Some people think that only famous masters and people who teach Dharma from high concept gurus, such as Bhajan masters who give initiation. This is not so. You must also be properly devoted to a teacher who shares the same room, sharing everything, who tutors you in the books. When the teacher observed Dongdong he carried on his side in his bare hands. As a result, he suddenly developed such clairvoyance that he could read the subtle workings of his hands. But his hands had so distinct indicate temperature 18 days to reach it. Even today, Dong is famed everywhere as the great father of Kadamba teaching, and the Buddha works as fast as the days are of Disha in all India together, and all soldiers through the power of Dong's proper devotion. Whatever saints or others who works are sensitive depends on his devotion. During the war, came from the life of Geshe Ngawang and served him well. One day he was taking out the rubbish. When a fire had come down, he introduced himself without a single point of concentration. When Sayapandita was asked his idol to compose a whole Guru Yoga, Tara at first said he wanted to learn not as the Guru, and peace. Later, Tara fell sick. Sayapandita cursed his words, and so the Guru Yoga by Guru Yoga. From that time on, Sayapandita guided practicing Buddha, not just as Sangha, and became a highly scholar of 5 sciences. Temporarily, who later occupied the Pabongka, would worry so much about his tutor Damchoe that he almost had himself. Temple realized that he would because he nursed his tutor so well. Pucho Pabongka wanted to carry the name of sex to down, used as cooking fuel to conquer the deserts of house. Pucho had Hashi to run the ancient skull filled with mountains. Pucho had offerings, fine chains of glass. Then developed intense association with rings of samsara. So that the light Guru realization stages of path would greatly increase. As he experiences realization to the stages of path and
Good. Everybody understand? Most understand. What it is that I can say, oh, give you senior like that. You put Tabayana, and this was a Toba company, or you better rest or
So anyway, this is our explanation about how one's realizations and knowledge will increase if we properly devote to the Gurus.
그런 난 조직에 다 시험시 듣는다. 아니 조직에 다 시험시 나네. 근데 저 운동 때마다 아니 아무 상식이 이제 다 나줘봐. 같이 나줘봐 지금 이 같은 검자 되겠니. 공도 또 봐. 다 나하고 년도 수야 땅서마다 다 조직이 운동 때마 공도 야심을 했어. 그래서 정말이나 아니 또 봐. 그러나 나하고 년도 다 치아심을 했어.
It says here, both Dr. Ame Changchu Rinchen diligently served Lama Tisha, once an attendant, another as a cook. In terms of concentration and realization, they had more insight and experience than Mahayogi, who practiced only in meditation. So they were not doing meditation all the time, but they had more realizations than the meditator, than the Mahayogi who was meditating all the time.
어때 그거 아니 조지가 내시가 세네 좀 나다 저런데 요즘에 너무 지난 게다 이게 세서만하다 샤샤오시 대남 성을 해서 세서마 좀 관계에 다 세트세더라 근데 내가 다시 또 샤샤오시 다 대남 성에 근데 내가 성을 했어
거기도
조지가 내시가 세네 조지가 세버렸어
다른
그게 시시세네 너무나 체지 라마 세서나 샤트 샤바 코나 남도 성스
certain
그냥
가서 세
스타르세 빠져있어 세트
버저스라서
관계에 대미가는데
남아도 걸어 쓰고 있어.
이나 세상에 샤토시가 코나 somata 다
certain
되는 걸지
되는 데는 그런 게 라마 고가불었어요. 이제 다 세상 맞잖아.
아들은 고가버려 대티시 없이 대 소대 수행 가시 그래서 세트에다 세상 고가버지 소대에 딱 남아요 라마 세상에 샤토시가 코나 somata
이제 그런 라마 그런 좀더 그런 나타나서.
아니나
So more stages in part than he says Atisha could see by his clairvoyance and told Dom, you traveled the path merely by serving your guru, great head monk.
요다 된 곳에 보이는 데다 논데 막 조지 관이가나 다 신발이 하고 메서 됐다고 좋은 것이서 말했어 아니 내가 가시 그 안에 다 된지를 남아서도 직접 걔네 된 거사가 소소지 작은 나보다데 년 도진 그보다 왕께가 더 제일 나왔다고 치더나 주는데도 다 인상 뭐뭐 그래서 이제 대말했어
So I don't know who's this gray-haired monk. It could be referring to Lama Atisha himself, or maybe there's other guru that Thubten has. So anyway, so Atisha told him that. Atisha said that it's because of serving his guru, gray-haired monk. And then it says that some people think that only famous abbots and people who teach Dharma from high throne are gurus, such as Vajra masters and give the Vajra masters who give initiation. So only those lamas are the gurus, others are not.
이제 대말에서 랑기 샤다 랑다 간용라니 시비 배자는 게 얘기 되라 답변을 주고 그래
This is not so. You must also be properly devoted to a teacher who shares the same room, sharing everything, and who tutors you in the books.
아니 좀지는 조지 노에 가봐야 다 잡재야 마타와지는 라페시다 싫어가 아니 이거 디인들라 때네 아니 샤게기야 이놈 쪼재기랑 동생이 사자된 거 소작 차라 숨지지 생기지와 강강 통하기 다 제대 지는 것이 다 조지기라 좀 되는 통화를
And then it says, when Atisha was ill, Dom did not regard his faces as something filthy, and he carried them outside in his bare hands. As a result, he suddenly developed such clairvoyance that he could read the subtlest workings of the minds of animals, even ants, at a place so distant it would have taken a virtuous 18 days to reach it.
그리고 다디가다 까든지 때마 시미로 시인테니 쇼지 잡아대야 다시 말해서 잡아나 저 지금 바보니까 내가 나가다냐 봐요 다 조지대요 아니 바보니까 나가냐 봐요 신예들이 때마다 쇼 말해서
So he says, eventually Dom is famed everywhere as the great grandfather, great forefather of the Kadamba teachings, and the good works as vast as space itself of great Atisha in both India and Tibet came about solely through the power of Dom's proper good devotions.
대마다는 대시 깨워 담아서 내가 제무제야 다 신예대도 하고 쇼를 하는 그래서
And so also any holy beings, whether their activities will be famous or would be helpful to others or not, depends on their good devotions.
아니 샤야와 쇼는 그때 샤마와 서제들 아니 샤브제 다 시네 이마치 괜히 포 파피로 가라 다 배를 다 기다가 놀아 기다 쓰미 가래 가라 취지 등에도 좀 그래 또 샤야와
And then it says there, well, there's it says Shunu Wo, who came from Chayu, relied on Geshe Ngawang and served him well. One day he was taking out the rubbish. On arriving at the dump, he took only 3 steps when he developed the continuous Dharma single-pointed concentration.
대한다 사자 밴드 지세들 딱 그래 저거야. 한 지세 잡아야 되나야. 다 담볼라면 나셔나로 시에 쉬어야 말이지. 이제 가 고는 게 잡으러 말이지. 사자 밴드다 돼 지세 잡아야 돼. 잡으러 말이지. 근데 담보다 저는 말라 다 고랑이다. 지세 잡아야 돼. 말라면 나셔나로 시에 쉬어야 말이지. 대가라야 돼. 지세 잡아야 돼. 제 말아. 그 대신에 라면 대신 매일 라면을 좀 용마해서 말해서 다 많은 거 말해서.
And then also Sajja Pandita asked his uncle, Venerable Thapa Gyaltsen, to give him the teaching on the Guru Yoga. And then Thapa Gyaltsen said, you only see me as an uncle, so that by saying that he did not give the Guru Yoga teaching.
아니 시에서 아니 진짜 잡아야 돼. 용원이 다 때려서 잡혀다가 다 샵시네. 세력이 왔다 하고 싶어 제가 인자 아니 라면 나중에 나와야 말이지.
And then later when Thapa Gyaltsen fell sick, and then Sajja Pandita nursed him well, and so then he gave him just as a guru, and served him as a guru. Then he gave the Guru Yoga teaching.
대지도 딱 그거 대신 매번 상징이 진 대신 시에 다 리페 내려만 하기에 따라 사실 빼다 다 하세. 다들 정말 말이지.
And so from that time on, Sajja Pandita regarded his uncle as a Buddha, not as an ordinary uncle, but as a Buddha, and therefore, because of that, then Pandita became a Pandit, a scholar in the 5 sciences.
아니 첫째 때 말하지 한 거는 묘하나 대라 다 생제지네 코로나 지금에 다 공부도 됐지 알았어. 근데 뉴욕 레바라 시빈 달아 되니 아니 또 봐. 다 정말 해서 손도
뉴욕 가서?
네 코로나 얘기해. 아니 뉴욕에 다 내가 요거야 보고 이걸 때문에 코로나 또 번도 그랬어. 그거 대라 투마지 라양 대나시다 소소양 공부도 좋지 그랬다 생제 아니 다 소소 고 얘기해라. 그런 게 용선 첫째 때 말한 게 용선인데 딱 뉴욕 가라요. 대라 샵샵 하다 보다 제가 띵들어 되니 아니 첫째 때 말하지 공부잖아요. 또 봐말하고 정말 했어.
And then also it says Tembarabgir, who later accompanied the Garden Trunk, worried so much whenever his tutor became ill that he almost died himself. And as Temba realized the view of the emptiness, because he nursed his tutor so well.
아니 부정 나오신다 인지 아니 무슨 말이야 저가 와서 그런 거 되게 딱 얘기해라 대서 좋아 당도 별에는 좋아서 어디까지 메타니까지 메타하고
좋아
바주자가 대키네 딱 공학에서见到 그래서 근데 저가에 신기라비가 딱 나중에 봐딱 가오니까 나네 뒤 도시 신기라네 대나 대내에서 다 민주 딱 지마가 딱 정말 해서 좀 무서워.
And then also Pujo Noen Chamba, he says one day carried an enormous sack of dried dung, used as cooking fuel, to Dukang Gelek Gyatso's house. Pujo had undergone much hardship, and Dukang Gelek Gyatso gave him an ancient skullcap filled with the consecrated inner offering, and Pujo Noen Chamba drank the offering, and his mind stream was blessed. He then developed an intense renunciation and awareness of samsara.
나도 어떻게 다 되네 좋아하는 관심 맞지 가져다 신경에 대해서 다 생각했는지 소리 제가다 되게 용어를 해서 관심 맞지.
So all this happened properly devoting to the gurus, to one's guru through one's body, speech and mind.
그리고 사람들이 또 봐도요. 내가 때는 배치에 대해서 나로 들으나 사람들이 또 봐 이유를 받아. 요거 제가 설레는 전부터 수수도 신이 돼서 추셔와나 다른 요거를 해서 안에 들어가서 생각을 사람 영통을 계속 배려서.
And also in the process of nectar lam-rim, it says as experiences and realizations into the states and path will instantly develop and increase if we properly devote to the gurus.
와 간제에 먼저 간제 소소가 대화에서 개개가 아니 다 생각해서 지가지 다 야고 때나 소소 계속 소소라고 그래.
So anyway, if you properly devote to the guru, in whom you have faith or devotion, and then you gain, you yourself gain it.
아니, 어디다 되는 거야? 다들 먹을 걸 그냥 시킨다.
So I think about that, there's not much to talk.
어디다 되는 거 가서 먹어요. 먹어?
어머, 방아지처럼 하나 치우쳐 나가.
아, I'm late. Oh, sorry. 그냥 안 좋아.
네, 저는 특별히 드셔야 돼요. 선호사하고 같이 어떤 소사 왔어. 저런 말이죠.
이건 저도 기회줬어. 저도 오는데. 아들한테 고생. 걔야 말이다. 다 간지 밑에 손님하고 싸우는 걸 하고 왔어. 좋아. 손님들이 못해서 간지 다 내도 가는 처음 하는 걸 하고 왔어.
So anyways, the person with the merit, will not be inflicted by any of the harms, right? The spirit harms, the sickness, disease, and so forth. They will not do to it. 되게.
내가
선호사하고 같이 보자.
다 손으로 가르쳐 그랬어.
소사하고 이거 잘
내가 생각 그랬어. 되게 좋았어.
So the question was, what do you have to do to increase, to accumulate merit? What do you have to do to accumulate merit?
Okay. What do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Frustration, purifications,
Water
good
bowls.
deeds,
Water
virtue
bowls.
deeds,
아니.
happy class.
근데 간지 야버려서 간지 속사가 들어가지 않고 그래서 안 되었어.
So,
고시도 올해 세목에 간지 다 방송
so
나이.
Geshe said, what do you have to do to accumulate merit? He says you have to accumulate merit and purify negatives in order to accumulate merit. Alright, so second question.
다 간지 속사들 다는 저절로 샤프고 저거 그래서 간지.
So how do you accumulate merit and purify negativities?
다들 오더라도 속사들은 가르치고 그래서 속사 들어가서 속사 간장 대가지고 그래서.
So what do you have to do, to accumulate merit and purify negativities?
Then
Virtue.
they all clarity there.
So just like you said, right? You have to make prostrations and meditations, prayers.
샤도 받아 주 간지 연하도 개념을 제고 그래서.
So what practice like the 7 lim practices, right?
Keep your
Make
vows.
prostrations,
야,
keep our vows, yeah.
예.
The right intention.
가서.
구로야보게, 삼려보게.
야, 간지 아까 개샤와 가리 제와 나 간지 다 쏘는 거 쏘는 거 속삭이게 다 들어가지 않고 그래서.
So any kind of virtuous action that you engage in will help you to accumulate merit and purify negativities, right?
간지 다 너도 남주셔야 돼. 다 연하도 개념에서 지금 속에 와서.
So usually we talk about the 7 lim practices in order to accumulate merit and to purify negativities. The practice to purify negativities and to accumulate merit, we do the 7 lim practices, right?
다 쏘는 건데 뭐데 대도 안 되도록 지금 다 수송을 했어. 실라가 했어.
So the person with the merit will not be inflicted by the spirits, demons, or gods and the non-virtuous friends. Who said that? Or where is it said? Who said it, or where is it said?
그래서 에르비서 대나콜 빌라이로 야시로 돌았어요.
So it says the wishes of those with the merit will be fulfilled. They have defeated the demons and will soon reach enlightenment.
The great,
Gods and demons cannot hinder those with merit.
됐을라
the
그래서.
Great Play Sutra.
야제를 배우겠어요.
야시로는 또 속에서
Play Sutra.
So the Great Play Sutra, who said that?
Doesn't actually say in
Huh?
there.
Who was the sutra, the Buddha?
Yeah.
Has to be Buddha, right? The sutra has to be Buddha.
This lecture. What in the season, not that Sanjay Somares, cause one of the Geshe Ngawang Tenley.
Who said it is the Buddha, and where he said it is in that Great Place Sutra.
Doyena, Katina Sanjay Somares.
So if it's a sutra, it is necessarily a teaching of the Buddha.
And the teaching is Sanjay Somares.
So, but the commentaries, are not necessarily Buddhas.
Teaching the God, teach Korean Sanjay Somares. Those are the
Quite a more.
Sanjay Somares, Choki Somares. Nolan Choki Somares.
Kala Kumare.
Chotokoma. Listen, Jamaican,
Other Shukutu,
Dollar engineer, small chocolate in West.
So the teachings of the Buddha, and the Sutra are a little different in a sense. Like, of course, they're both Buddhas, but there's the supreme emanation Buddha, the supreme emanation body, like the Buddha Shakyamuni, who came at that time, emanating as Buddha Shakyamuni, and teaching the Buddhas, teaching Dhamma. So that is the Sutra. But then other teachings of the Buddha, like, during that time, other Buddhas are there also, like Menjushi or Avalokitesvara, they give teaching. And that's the teachings of the Buddha, but not Sutra.
Oda kanche maje tsusa zhaya nama che go res, sunum sabara tsusa da zhaya zhaya chan go res. Tsusa da zhaya kaje kanche ta sha zaba chewa pewa tazo re zhaya. Ani toma ni gomba, shanchi sem gomba, nishi gomba, so kanga doge kanche gewe shawa chasang.
So there are such that kind of differences, might be useful, might not be useful. But anyway, in order to purify, accumulate merit and purify negativities, you have to engage in those practices of the 7 limbs, like making prostrations and so forth. So if we have merit and have removed all the obstacles, then all our wishes will come true.
초 kanche sawa gire, zhaya kanche gare kanche, 초 kanche sawa thani zhaya ma jhan go res, zhaya go res.
So more merit will accumulate, that much less the negative karmas will be also.
Nima kanche sawa ina, kama ma nama shiro go res, chiba res.
So just like the warmer the sun becomes, the quicker the snow would melt, right?
So tene chiba res.
Similar to that.
아니 대파사대 고 니마 지금 도로 말했어. 아니 나는 고 갈래 유유 초조 땅 고세야 그래서.
So the negative karmas cannot be purified just in one day. So slowly you make it less and less, and then eventually get rid of it completely.
마고값 강하다는 주면서 마고대 영화값 강하대 고 갈래 되면 받는 거 가는 정도로 그러고.
So just like the candle wax, it gets consumed slowly. It doesn't get consumed right at once, right? Slowly, as you light longer and longer, then the wax gets consumed slowly.
먼저
Eventually
개화
it will be all dried.
개화대표는 좀에 매매방도 벽에서 그러고 대파대다 와서 그러고. 근데 좀에 만나고 와서 가는 거 맞다고.
So our virtuous action is like the light, the flame, and the negative karma is like the wax. So the more flame there is, then the less wax there will be, right?
그래서 단 좀에 그게 대서나 아니고 와서 대대대로 고세요 말아서.
So if it's not lighted, if there's no flame, no fire, if it's not lit, then the wax will be there all the time, right? It will just stay there.
그래서 좀에 주주면 빠르게 미치고 그래 보면 새로워.
But if you have, the light, the flame there, even if it's very small, slowly it will get rid of all the whole wax, right?
어떤데 다가도 겨가졌다. 오만대로 찔러놓고 엑스한테 새로워. 꼬라 찔려나 엑스한테 새로워. 내 쇼치로는 또 엑스한테 새로워. 찔러서.
So if we recite Om Mani Padme Hum, that will consume a little bit of the wax, of negative karma, and then if we consume, circumambulate the stupa or read in the scriptures, that will all help to consume the wax of the negative karma.
어떤 때는 다 나도 때는 내가 지금 저 원래를 제대로 내가 제대로 지금 또 관계가 내가 제대로 돼 단단히 도구 나도 이제 다시는 통화이 말이야. 나 이거 속상저 싫어 장기 그래서.
And all of you who come here and help and support the center in many different ways, you are creating merits, virtuous actions, and also consuming, the wax of the negative karmas.
아니 나가 다 제가 나가야 딱 그래. 라샤요 말했어. 싸면 말했어. 라샤 야도 그래서 양수도.
So you should not think that I work so hard for the center, yet I don't get paid. You get the best paid.
내 야수를 만드는데 다가가기로.
You get the best paid.
근데 야부시라지 관계이. 오다 때문에 우리 스타미세 관심 많지. 조사 좀 해보셔라. 아니 딱 맞지. 강의 쉬운 음악강의들 다섯 말 수직 쌍고 말해서.
So anyway, try as much as possible to engage in the virtuous action to accumulate merit and to purify negativities, and don't worry thinking that I will never be free from these negativities.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
I have a question about emptiness. So is there anything that exists from its own side, like the Buddhas? Do they exist from their own side, or?
오늘도 지금 영어를 써니 영어를
지금 영어를
상계 영어를 했어.
산지라는 좋은 말이었어요.
Yeah, not even Buddha, nothing,
There's nothing in the world.
nothing in the world.
산지에다 가래. 샘지가 되면 산지에 있고, 샘지 되면 산지에 되는 거 아니야. 샘 유모도 자성이고 산지에 되는 거다. 그러고.
So Buddha, which means an enlightened being, right? So you are called enlightened being because you are not unenlightened. So your becoming enlightened being depends on not being unenlightened.
근데다만도 다 대인바대 단도 선도당 그래서 당게 먼저 라빠듯이 해봐. 버스에도 봉을 되게 봉을 벌 때네. 가와서 봐줘지 더 라빠는 때는 차차차차 선다 그래.
So that's just like how it depends on this side to the other side. So this side and that side. There cannot be this side if there's no that side. Other side of the mountain or this side of the mountain, or male to the female. There cannot be male without a female, and so forth, just like that. So of course, then if you think about how it is dependent on cause and conditions, one cannot become Buddha without practicing, without doing all these intense practices. You cannot become Buddha. So Buddha became Buddha by those practices. So there's Buddha from his own side without depending on the practices.
근데 산지라는 거 처음에는 나도 산지 고마 도마도 못 왔으나 대상에 말했어. 그 벤토로 키면서 대상에 말했어. 말아서 라는 조금만 말아서 샤질에 들이나서 가면 대비로 소도로.
So some people think that you have to exist from its own side for it to really exist, But in this case, it's not. It means like depending on other things. So even though it doesn't exist from its own side, but it can still, be achieved, and you can perform all these activities, after achieving that.
Okay, who's faster? Yeah. You're first.
So can something be permanent but yet non-existent from its own side, like Dharmadhatu, or something that's primordial wisdom? How would you talk about that?
답변인데 라면 누가 영어를 했어.
영어를
내가 춘이도 라면 누가 말했어.
말. 춘이세야 가려드나 내가 동아들라 너무 많이 맞지 차도 춘이들어 왔어. 그 내가 저번에 내가 이제 뒤 동아들 춘이 그 다시 왔어. 내 마음이 차 춘이세.
So what is Dharmadhatu? Dharmadhatu, right? It means the reality, the nature of the reality. And so, again, the reality is that it doesn't exist from its own side. The reality is that things do not exist from one side. And so the reality itself is empty of existence from its own side.
So would you still say it's permanent, though, but yet non-existent from its own side?
Yes, that's how it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a permanent. It never changes. Reality is reality.
답봐도 못 답았어야 돼. 제가 제가 되는 진로거든요. 아니 답봤어. 뭐? 못 답았어. 아니 제가 때 먹게더라. 아니 네 그래. 답봤어.
So permanent and impermanent, the difference between permanent and impermanence is that depending on the cause and condition or not. So that which depends on cause and condition is impermanent. That which doesn't depend on the cause and condition is permanent.
다 답봤어. 제가 제가 내가 많이 나. 다 때리셔. 땡주. 땡 답봤어. 땡주요.
So but even though it doesn't depend on cause and condition, but it still depends. It's still interdependent. So it depends on something, path, or directions and so forth. And by depending on that, or on the level, or the terms and so forth, by depending on that, then it becomes permanent.
맨날 샤쇼 남거든 노쇼 남거든 나와이나 이거 딱 말해줘. 이나야 대따때는 좀 대주.
So just to give you some like easy example, would be like the eastern sky or eastern space and then the western space. So the western space cannot be there without the eastern space. How will you say it's the western space if there's no eastern space, right? It's because there's eastern, therefore you can call it western space. And so something like that. So it's not. It doesn't depend on cause and condition. It's not produced by it, but it depends on that.
동반이 세대 즉 도토라바지에로 들어주 성당에 말다지 지금
So emptiness is not something that you can hold in your hand.
그래 배나 저런 거 말고 저런 게 동안 거
For example, you are not me. You are empty of me, right?
저런 게 동에게 다 동사지로
So there's this part, of the empty, right? You, the part of you being empty of me, that part.
내가 좀 도와를 이렇게 믿어왔어.
Can that part be seen or touched?
다음은 또 대말 잡아서야지 랑 잡아서야 될 대말 잡으려 그래서 대 많이 배차더라 다 되게 동화더라 아니 대말 동화에서
So same thing with the true existence. So when you say lack of true existence, it means like it is not existing truly from its own side, and so that part, which is not existing from its own side, is the lack of true existence.
나타서고 말아서 파직지 동도 고라바 전부 기마라고
And so that those things which you can see are not subtle ones; those are the gross ones.
여기라가 이나 담보전도 성당에 진제대 요라바데 그걸 삼부다. 근데 잘 담보는 담보는 그 장거리.
So, but when you first start, first you start with the gross ones. Then see if that makes sense. Then you move on to contemplate on the subtle and subtler ones.
당연히 저도 질라를 봤어. 다 남에게 대바트를 말씀도 다 이제는 상태나 그만도 그래. 고바스 그러고 무슨 말이야?
And so, like I said earlier, if you think that Buddhism says things do not exist truly, maybe it's like that. If you just keep think like that, then it doesn't help much.
그러니까 진짜다 고바다도 가만 상담하나 당연히 지 거에 들어왔어.
But if you think about the reasons why it is not existing truly, the reasons and then all the logics and meaning of that, then that understanding through that will be more real understanding.
특별히 그런 원하지 변하면도 레라고를 적어나 첨보 세대 주주를 되죠. 주주는 첨보, 자바는 깜보는 자바. 다 그것 때문에 잘 넣었어.
So all these things that depend on others, like the tall depends on short, short depends on tall, the fat and thin, old and young, all this depends on each other. So that's how the interdependent is.
I'm short, he's the most jack, they call me short. Because they most move it to I'm shorter than, and also many short, other short ones there. You like that, okay? Then, okay, now you, who's, okay.
Well, I have two questions, so
Yeah,
somebody wants to
then
go for me?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, after they finish you, okay?
I was wondering about how karma doesn't exist from its own side when karma is passed down from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime.
그래서
레디 가지는 소설 아무 누구가 말했어. 가서 레디더니 교환을 퍼르고 왔어. 그래서 레기 떠가서 박차돼서 왔어.
대장님 저 지내요 말을 가지 개왕 하면 근데 가는 거 가요 말을 대장님 좀 지어요 말이지 뭐 나라서 메이트도 막 개왕 막 했는데 개왕 하면 뭐요 말이지 아니 대영화 잠시 거의 제목은 대화하니 맞아 다른 저거 또 말이지 걔네요 말이지.
So just because it came from past life to this life, then just because it was passed from life to life doesn't mean it exists from its own side. Even we, are passed from, we came from the past life to the past life, and then to this life, and then we're going to go to the future life. So we are passed through that too. So that doesn't mean that we are also exist from our own side.
그냥 먼저 다 아마도 맞게네 합다 찍네 단다봐 로 자딩이나 로 잡라고 로디라다 이나 오타 테 이름을 심으러 와서 너도 대마트 그랬었나 너도 대노로 그랬어.
So someone who is born and is going to live up to 100 years old, then the person is moves on to live up to 100 years old. So it's keep on moving every, like every year, every month, every day, or minute, second, and so forth. So it's moving, right? So that movement, because it's moving in that way, if you say it exists from this one side, then we're mistaken to think of that.
그래 단선다고 말. 거의 질문 쉬우지도 오다 대마트 그랬었네 말.
So just because it lasts for a very long time doesn't mean that it exists from its own side.
아니 무다디 하고 쉬고 이봐야 다 대마트 그랬어 말했어. 뭐기와 두자 쉬고다 대마트 말했어 말했어. 거의 야좀 되는 가만 집어했어.
So just because Buddha is so good or enlightened, doesn't mean that he is exists from his own side. But the negative karma is so bad, it brings so much suffering and so forth. It doesn't mean that it exists from its own side. So whether it's bad or good, nothing exists from its own side.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, give go ahead.
Thank you. The question, I have two questions. The aspect of the emptiness and the reality in this dimension as a human species of death. So death is part still of the physicality, and the emptiness is no form. I'm intrigued by the nature of the emptiness and death as a human species. So the death is still form, so we're not dead. So that's one question. And the other question I have is about Kadampa.
Sorry, can we just do
Sure.
one question first?
Mm.
You were saying that death and emptiness?
I'm
I
intrigued.
didn't understand quite first one.
Okay. I'm intrigued by the nature of the teaching of the emptiness. So death is a form by nature of the emptiness of itself. So it's of this dimension.
So you're saying that death is a form of emptiness?
From this dimension, from the physicality. We're not finite. I'm curious about the nature of the teaching from the emptiness and death, about the nature of the emptiness in the form of death for us as a human species.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the right question, but it doesn't matter.
Somebody understand more? Anila?
Do you mean form as in form like a form? Or form as in
Type.
a type? Form, you're saying death has a form?
Well, we use
Do you
the word death, and this is really a reality of our life every day, from the mosquito to the fish to us, to our parents, to our ancestors. I think it would be vital to understand the nature of non-fear about death. So the question is very simple. Is it the completion of that form here? Simple as that.
So are you saying that the death, which is happening in our lives every day, is a type of emptiness?
Right. It could be that. I mean, it could be that side of the two sides that Geshe speaks about. We always have to include the other side. So I'm very intrigued by death in the teaching of the emptiness.
Maybe it's how form and emptiness combine, like how they are two sides of one coin, form and emptiness maybe.
That's okay. Doesn't have to have an answer.
The next question.
The next question is Kadampa. I was curious in Tibetan, what is that the meaning of the Kadampa, of the nature of devotion? Is that correct or not? I don't know. Kadampa, I don't know what it means. Kadampa teaching from the point of view that the monks were very devoted to their root guru, and through action of devotion they came to self-realization. So Kadampa is what in Tibetan? Is it devotion or is it just a path of part of the Buddha?
Kadampa. Kadampa. 나왔어요. 대단히도 다 좋으시다는 말 말씀하세요. 되게 뭐라.
가담바.
조 가담바.
가담바래. 가담바.
가담바. 가담바. 그딱 말라봤어.
So the word kadampa actually means like it's like advice, giving advice, teaching, giving the teachings, the advice of the teachings, and so that started from Lama Atisha, came down to Thubten and then to many lamas, and they all called kadampas. So of course, that advice, the giving the teachings of the advice, is there all the time, but that term kadampa, started from there.
Okay. Okay, sorry, the first question.
No problem.
So if you're saying, well, Geshe was earlier saying, if you're saying that is a form of emptiness, then he says it's not. If that was your question.
I listen.
Okay. Yes.
So, first question, I'm just going to make it quick, is they say that we should regard even our alphabet teachers as our gurus, maybe especially in Tibet, of course. And most of the children in Tibet, when they learn the alphabet, it's from somebody who they later are told to regard as their guru because that person allowed them to learn the Dharma. So the children didn't really examine that person to be their guru. So is it possible that we have gurus that we don't necessarily examine in a situation like that?
나 보고 춘주들 나 가갈랍 좀 이제 나 남의 다 그런 게 다 교신 다 진짜 중요한 거라서 내가 저한테는 다 근데 최신의 다시 맞추면 되는 여러 가지
맞춰왔더니 열쇠 마지막 주신 그 다시 맞춰가지고 주말 시에서는 더 좋네 교체 되는 거 보였어. 이제 어떠셨어?
So yes, there are many. So there are many people who have not got a chance to examine about their guru, and that's because they heard somebody's giving teaching, and then they just go and receive teachings. And then later they found out that person is not really worthy of guru, and then they don't know what to do now. They cannot devote to that person, and they cannot not devote to that person. It's full of people like that.
So in that situation, they no longer regard that person as their guru?
대도 가르쳐 왔어. 대체 가르쳐 왔어. 그러나 교신 때문에 말했어요. 그래서 그러면 어느 명화 실차이나 교신 때문에 제가 들들 가르쳐.
이거 인터넷에 고소도 제자들 같이 연락을 다 해야 돼.
So from your side, you should see that person as your guru, and then do not have any bad thoughts or negative thoughts about him or her. So of course it is important to examine before that, but once you have done it already, then there's no going back, and you have to see that person as your guru.
다 좋은 사람들은 여가 누가 이제 대만 주도적으로 내는 거 소소문이 다 마시고 이제
So yeah, I mean, if you can think of saying that, oh, okay, this is what I see, but not necessarily true. But the person is really good, that has taught in the Dharma and so forth. By thinking like that, you can see that person as your guru.
So even though those people, they found out that that person is not worthy of being guru, they still should think of them as a Buddha?
바로 다 쉬라고 시작하더니 늦춰놓지나 또난 내려쳤다. 아니 난 내려가다 내치를 단지를 때문에 상당히 양소주고.
So there's no such thing as you have to, but good if you can.
It'd be good, yeah.
It'll be good for you to do that because, even though the person is bad, if you see that person as a guru, then you receive the blessings of the guru, like the Buddha, you receive the blessings of the Buddha. So, another thought you can think like, oh, that person is really Buddha, but he's showing all these bad aspects and bad behaviors to tame me, to help me, and something like that. If you can think like that, it doesn't. We don't know. We cannot tell who that person is, just because he acts, negatively or in a bad way, doesn't mean he's not Buddha. But if we find difficulties in thinking it like that, then it is very important to think about the person. Check about the person before you receive teachings or initiations about the person. So sometimes it depends on also how Buddha teach, sometimes he will say, yes, you should kill your parents, and again, and it has different meanings, what it means by parents. So the parents will give birth to us in this life, or the parents, that give birth to all these suffering that we're going through. So that is the parent that we should kill. And so sometimes just from what you hear the word, it might sound very negative.
Okay, yeah.
Just very quickly also. And the other question is who we regard as guru. For example, there are many lamas of my own teachers that I've never met, never examined them. Should I think of them as my guru, even though they're not my guru, but they've given maybe teachings to my own teachers? So should I think of them as my guru and think of them in the merit field, or is it enough to just think of one's own guru in the merit field?
I don't know.
So it's, of course, it's not a direct guru, but of course, if your guru is able to see him as a guru, then he must be a guru, right? So there shouldn't be any problem with that. But of course, because it's not your direct guru, so it's you're not direct guru, but it's your indirect guru. So it is a lineage guru, so the lineage of the teaching that you are practicing now came from that guru to your guru and from your guru to you. So of course, it is connection there. And yeah, of course, if you can see him as a guru, that's good also.
Okay.
So you think of that person as your guru, and you think always in a positive way about that person, and have faith and respect and devotion, and that helps you to create a merit for yourself also. So you can have many gurus. You can have many hundreds of gurus, right? So, but among them, you can have one main guru, from whom you receive teachings, and who seems to be most karmically connected to you. So then you can regard that person as your main guru.
Okay, thank you very much, Geshe.
Maybe you can check that all the teachers. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now we finish. Thank you.